Hi everyone. Hi. My name is Nathaniel. Thank you, Kevin, for the beautiful introduction. My pronouns are he or they interchangeably. I work in theater. I wear many hats, probably like most of us here, I imagine. And thank you so much to CPAMO and the Gathering Divergence Conference for having me today. I do have a performance for you, as mentioned, a PowerPoint performance. It's a draft. It's still very much in development. But before we start, could I have the house lights up just like a tiny little bit? Thank you. And could I have the next slide, please? Incredible. So I need your help, everyone. I'm repainting my apartment, and I really need your advice on which color I should choose. So if you don't mind, my friend in the wonderful white outfit here, may I ask your name? We haven't met yet. Miss Coco, thank you. I'm wondering if you had to choose between these two colors and tell me which of these colors I should paint my apartment, which one would you choose? But I trust you implicitly. I can tell. You have a good sense of this. Please impose. I'm so indecisive. I need you. With the yellow. Okay, thank you. And may I ask if you don't mind speaking to this? It's not a trap. What made you choose the yellow? I love this. We're in the need of sunshine and warmth in our lives. That's so beautiful. Thank you. My apartment's going to be so inspiring and warm. And I want to ask you as well, like obviously it's a yellow color, but if you had to choose the perfect name for this particular beautiful shade of yellow, what would you call it? Sunrise. So this is sunrise. And my last question for you is, of course, we have these two color swatches here. We have beautiful sunrise, and we have this other color, blue, that I'm not going to paint my apartment because you have spoken. And I'm wondering if these two colors were dating, which one would pull their weight in the relationship? It would still be sunrise. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Can we give Miss Coco a round of applause for this expert color advice? Thank you so very much, and the house lights can come down again. I really appreciate it. So if you hadn't noticed, I think about these questions a lot. And in fact, when I'm not thinking about theater, I'm probably thinking about one thing. Could I have the next slide, please? That thing is the Pantone Color of the Year. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, Pantone is a company that's built its brand on a color matching system that has over 3,000 numbered colors. And one subsection of Pantone is called the Pantone Colour Institute, which I like to think of as kind of a magical design school for witches and wizards. But sorry, J.K. Rowling, you're not invited. Sorry, not sorry. And every year, the Pantone Colour Institute sends Pantone color experts all over the world in search of the latest color trends and to choose one color that will become the Pantone Color of the Year. But the color of the year, it's no mere trend. It is an oracle. Could I have the next slide, please? To quote Pantone Color Institute's Vice President Lori Pressman, the Pantone Color of the Year reflects what is taking place in our global culture, expressing what people are looking for that color can hope to answer. That's right. The Pantone Color of the Year is here for you because therapy or systemic change would just be so expensive. Could I have the next slide, please? Amazing. So to give you a few examples, in 2009, after the housing bubble burst, Pantone chose Mimosa, this color right here, as color of the year. It's not as cool as sunrise, but Mimosa. This color, the press release said, in a time of economic uncertainty and political change, optimism is paramount, and no other color expresses hope and reassurance more than mimosa. And you know what? To be fair, I have sought out mimosas in times of uncertainty. And so, Pantone, maybe you've got a point there. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Now, in 2012, Pantone declared their color of the year to be Tangerine Tango, this one right here. The press release said that Tangerine Tango is, quote, a bit exotic, but in a very friendly, non-threatening way. Fun fact, this is something that white people have also called me. I'm kidding, but we'll get to that later. We'll get to that later. Does anyone, I know Kevin knows, but does anyone know what this year's color of the year is? Just like shout it out if you know. It's white. Could I have the next slide, please? So, in the year of our Lord 2026, the Pantone color of the year is Cloud Dancer. You probably, obviously know this, you've seen the memes or the reels or read the think pieces. This color caused quite a lot of backlash in a year defined by funding cuts to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives across the board. Could I have the next slide, please? I think what really frustrates me about Cloud Dancer is Pantone's description of it. Cloud Dancer is about calm. Cloud Dancer is about quiet reflection and disconnecting from hustle culture. But Cloud Dancer is also about innovation. And Cloud Dancer is a mug, and it's a notebook, and it's a keychain, and it's a longer keychain. Cloud Dancer is everything and nothing. And why do we need to choose the best color every year? Like, I know why. It's a marketing scheme, but like, why? We're humans, yes, and our brains love to make meaning, but why do we have to burden color in this way? And don't get me wrong, sometimes I am grateful for the way that we make these random wavelengths of reflected light mean things. Like, for example, could I have the next slide, please? I am really grateful for the recent trend of bisexual lighting. Thank you, which reached its peak in 2018 and which now has its own Wikipedia page. When Pantone named ultraviolet as its 2018 color of the year, some interpreted this as a nod to the bisexual lighting phenomenon. And according to an article by George Pierpoint, the first recorded mention of bisexual lighting is from the 2014 Tumblr Creations of a Butterfly Mind about the BBC's Sherlock TV series. The post is titled, "The Sign of Three visually tells us that John swings both ways," and argues that pink, purple, and blue lighting in a club scene prove that Sherlock Holmes and his friend John Watson are bisexual and have the hots for each other. Next slide, please. Now, the pink, purple, and blue are, of course, the colors of the bi flag, which has its origins in a design created for the Boston bi women's community by Liz Nania, and which Michael Page turned into the flag we know today in 1998. And if you're not familiar, the overlapping colors are meant to represent attraction regardless of sex or gender, and you can find unabashedly queer uses of this color scheme in the Black Mirror episode San Junipero, or in Janelle Monáe's music video for the song That's Just the Way You Make Me Feel. And now, some might say that bisexual lighting is not real. Some might say that this neon, pink, and blue, and purple lighting is more of a nostalgic reference to the 1980s than a queer-coded message of any kind. But you know what? I don't care. Because queer people, and I think this is true of any marginalized group, we have the ability, the talent, to find meaning and magic in things that were never intended for us. Right? We will find ourselves in BBC Sherlock. We will find ourselves in vaguely 1980s lighting designs. We will find ourselves in blues and pinks and purples. And next slide, please. We will find ourselves in cuttlefish. Stay with me. Next slide, please. If cuttlefish were in charge of deciding the Pantone color of the year, probably they'd be really fucking over it. Because Cuttlefish, these beautiful ocean-dwelling tiny cephalopods, are literally their own living, breathing, color-matching systems. Cuttlefish, for those who aren't familiar, they're relatives of the octopus and the squid, and like the octopus, they have the ability to change color, to blend into their environment at a moment's notice, an ability called metachrosis. And cuttlefish can do this because of the chromatophores in their bodies. Could I have the next slide, please? So this is a close-up of some chromatophores. They're tiny pigment-filled sacs on a cuttlefish's skin. And because of the way these chromatophores are controlled by neurons, cuttlefish can change color literally the way we blink, at the speed of thought. And in researching for this talk, I found out that cuttlefish might have 200 of these chromatophores per square millimeter of skin. So for context, the eraser at the end of a pencil is maybe 5 millimeters wide. So imagine all of the chromatophores that could fit on a single end of a pencil. And the really mind-blowing thing is that cuttlefish may in fact be colorblind. So how does a colorblind creature even know what color to change? Scientists have theories, but we still don't have a definite answer about this. People, of course, are not cuttlefish. And in stories, when people try to change color, the consequences are sometimes tragic. And so, like, for instance, when I was in high school, I went through this phase where I watched a lot of movies by Douglas Sirk. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So Douglas Sirk is this German-American director who made these really over-the-top melodramas with titles like All That Heaven Allows or Imitation of Life. And you're seeing a still from All That Heaven Allows right here with some Pantone color codes to make it fun. And Sirk used deep focus lenses to make the colors in these movies even more radiant. Sirk said that he wanted to bring out the inner violence and the energies of the characters, which is all inside them and can't break through. So could I have the next slide, please? So Imitation of Life, that film that I mentioned, it's a film about two mother-daughter pairs. And one of the daughters, this character named Sarah Jane, who's played by the actor Susan Connor, pictured here, Sarah Jane is mixed race, and she has what I think today we would think about as a lot of internalized racism. And in the movie, Sarah Jane's father is not in the picture, and Sarah Jane has a complicated relationship to her mother, Annie, who is a black woman. And half the plot of this movie, which I really recommend you skip, don't watch it, is about how Sarah Jane really, really wants to be Cloud Dancer. And sometimes she can even pass as Cloud Dancer. But at the end of the day, she's not Cloud Dancer, and the desire to be Cloud Dancer kind of destroys her life. And in fact, I think many stories about biracial or mixed race people created before 1990 could be summed up as the desire to be Cloud Dancer destroys their life. But then the 1990s happened. Could I have the next slide, please? And I have a theory, and I have no evidence to back this up, but I was born in the 1990s, and I know what dial-up internet is, so I swear to God you can trust me. My theory is that starting in the 1990s, society started to treat mixed-race people like the Pantone Color of the Year. And we reflected what was taking place in the global culture, like cosmopolitanism and globalization and the so-called end of history, expressing what people were looking for that our colors could hope to answer. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So even as late as 2017, a New York Times opinion piece called What Biracial People Know called multiracial people, quote, a vaccine against the tribalist tendencies roused by Trump. I know it's a big responsibility. Mixed race people became a symbol that racism was dying and progress was linear and in the future we'd all be beige and race would be just another innocuous customizable commodity like the color of your apartment or the lock screen image on your phone. Well, I'm a biracial person, and first of all, I think it's really bold of the New York Times to assume that I know anything. But the more I think about this utopian idea of being mixed race in the 21st century, the more I see it as just another tentacle of white supremacist thinking. The writer Natalie Morris wrote an opinion piece, this time in 2018, for the Guardian newspaper. And Morris writes that so often, quote, "It is not mixedness that is being glorified, but simply the aesthetics of ambiguity and being close enough to whiteness," which I think is also doing mixed people dirty in a different way. And sidebar, I think this is also why it's really rare to find a mixed race fictional character who has two parents of color and not just one. For this talk, I considered trying to find out what Pantone color code matches my skin tone, because I thought at the very least I could find out what shade of stage makeup I should have been buying back in theater school. Have any of you folks heard of Shirley cards? Yes. Okay, next slide, please. So Shirley cards, as many of you know, were another color matching system created by Kodak in the 1950s, and these were reference cards featuring white women, and the original model for the cards was a Kodak employee named Shirley Page, and they were used to calibrate printers in photo labs. And fun fact, when Kodak finally introduced a multiracial Shirley card and adjusted their film itself to better capture non-white skin, the impetus was not their own racism. On the contrary, Kodak began to make these changes because of complaints from companies that sold chocolate and furniture. They couldn't capture the rich hues of candy bars in the way they wanted. And hey, to give Pantone some credit here, next slide please. To give Pantone some credit, the company continues to update its skin tone guide to be more inclusive, and in a lot of ways, this technology feels like an antidote to the Shirley cards of yore. May no theater school student ever have to look orange on stage again because they can't find makeup that was meant for them. So I did end up uploading a photo of myself to Pantone's online matching platform. And it gave me like 7 different color codes, depending on what part of my face I clicked on. But in the end, I decided that for now, maybe I don't need to know what I am, at least not in that way. Could I have the next slide, please? When I was a kid, white people, strangers, they would come up to me and often they would ask, "What's your heritage?" or "What's your background?" And I knew that I should have been insulted, but I was a theater kid, and so instead I was like, "Thank you for being obsessed with me." But the more I think about it, the more I think that "what are you" is just not a very interesting question, because I've noticed that when other global majority people want to get to know me, they don't start their questions with "what." Instead, they ask "who?" Who are your people? Or where do you feel connected to? And I love these questions because they don't have an easy color code attached to them. Instead, they make me want to learn and tell stories and ask questions like, "Hey mom, can you tell me again about how my Irish great-grandfather had to come to Canada because a clerk embezzled his family's money?" Or, "Hey dad, can you tell me again about the Jamaican woman who came to Canada in the 1950s to work as a nurse, not knowing that decision would lead to you?" Or, "Hey grandma, I wish you could tell me again how you had to learn to make pierogies when you married my Ukrainian grandfather." Or, "Hey dad, can you tell me again what's your first memory of your adoptive family?" So a color becomes a cuttlefish, becomes a Shirley card, becomes what? I never know how to end this PowerPoint because my relationship to these questions is always changing. So next slide, please. You. I'll leave you with one more picture of a cuttlefish, because they are weird and beautiful and totally themselves. Thank you so much for listening. And maybe we could have the house lights up because I think we have a little bit of time. Do we have a little bit of time? Yeah, if I guess this is a piece in thank you. I'm finding my light. I work in theater. I'm finding my light. I I'm finding my light. I work in theater. I swear. It's just, if anyone has any questions about the piece, or if anyone has any feedback, because it is a work that's still in development and I'm still growing. I would love to hear your responses. And so yes, over here.
So,
Yes.
I'm wondering, what was the inspiration for this piece workshop? I'm not sure how to. Oh, hi. Okay. Woo, that's loud. I was wondering, what was the inspiration for the piece? As someone with a multiracial background myself, there's a lot of things I could relate to, and I found your takes very interesting. So I'd love to know, how this became inspired.
Sure. I think number one is just like the Pantone Color of the Year really fascinates me and infuriates me. And for some reason, I've just started following it. And then I started reading the descriptions on the website that are like truly wild. I was like, why do you do this? And I think then from there, like that was a fun and light-hearted avenue into these questions that I continue to think about and that I like continue to navigate with my parents, with my family, with myself, with my peers, with my colleagues. And so I sort of thought, oh, the what if this really silly, ridiculous thing can be an avenue into that more into that weightier thing. Yeah, thank you. Yes, in the back.
I don't have a question so much as a comment. I really like how your piece feels interactive. And it is, of course, interactive at the beginning. And then it transitions into something that is, I wouldn't call it it is a theater piece, it is a performative piece. But I continually think about how, myself included, younger generation people, they don't just want to sit and receive a thing, they're used to interacting with a thing. Having some measure of agency or feeling as though they can contribute. And I felt that from what you were doing. I don't know if that's what you were going for, but I felt welcomed into the piece in a way that didn't make me feel like I was watching a thing. It made me feel like I was part of the thing.
Thank you. Maybe in the next iteration, we'll all choose our Pantone Color of the Year in this room. Um, Thank you.
I had a question out of curiosity. Is this the format you envision the work being in?
Uh, it For the most part, I really like that it starts and for these purposes, like that it is this sort of lecture with like a podium and all of that. In the future, I would love for it to maybe morph into something else as it keeps going and maybe become a little more physical and a little more embodied in different ways and move more into performance and take up more space. But that's where it's at now. Yeah, thank you. Um, yeah.
I'm curious about like what has surprised you the most through this process, um, and how have you felt the most supported by this work?
Sure. I thank you. That's a great question. I think I feel the most supported in that it's inspired me to have more conversations with family, with friends, with colleagues, and just be like just start to dig around beneath like assumptions or ask more questions about family history and like have more conversations about like uh like how, for instance, my dad feels about his own history and timeline. Don't want to speak for him being adopted and lots of other things, and his relationship to his biological parents. But so I think it's made me feel braver about like having those conversations. And it also, I think, has made me feel braver about figuring out like where I fit into those conversations. And I think I feel the most supported whenever I do it for people. And whenever I sort of hear people's reactions, and then whenever I have conversations like this, is I think when I feel the most supported. So maybe I'm making the piece as a way to have those conversations and feel that. So thank you. I don't want to take up too much more time, but thank you so much for your feedback and your questions. I really, really appreciate it.